Welcome everybody to the third in our series of Agent Matters sessions. This is our weekly catch up with agents from different sectors and different parts of the agency world, just to find out how they and their teams have been coping with these huge challenges so far, just with the aim of sharing experiences really, and checking in. So today we're going to be focusing more specifically on the cruise sector, joined by Paul Hardwick, who is the head of commercial at Fred.Olsen Travel. That's a group of 14 high street branches, I think it is now, Paul, isn't it?
Yep, that's correct.
In East Anglia and on the south coast. So I know particularly on the south coast, cruise makes up about half of your business there, doesn't it? So yeah, cruise obviously huge for Fred.Olsen Travel. Also Mary McKenna joining us all the way from Ireland. Mary's the boss of Tour America and Cruise Holidays, so specialises in the US and cruise, and you're the biggest cruise retailer in Ireland.
Yeah, so cruises worldwide, yeah.
Yeah. And also Edwina, who is MD of Mundy Cruising, which is a boutique agency specialising in the higher end and small ship cruising. So thanks very much all of you for joining us. It's been a crazy 3 or 4 weeks, and the impact on the cruise sector started even before other kinds of travel, really. I mean, how has the last 3 or 4 weeks been for you? Perhaps Paul, if I can come to you first, how have you been getting on?
Yeah, as you say, very challenging last few weeks. Probably for us, it started probably right back in January when the first cruises were starting to be impacting in Asia, having to get a lot of customers either home or cancelled or changed. And then obviously it's developed since then all the way up until what would have been the sort of when the mainstream cruise lines started cancelling all of their departures then through end of March, April, and now most of them well into May as well. The main priority for us has been trying to rebook as many as we can. So we've been monitoring that, and we've been trying to work on how we can do that. The cruise lines have been helping us with that, with some additional sort of future cruise credits. So rather than just giving most of them will give either 100% refund, or they'll give 110 or even 125% future cruise credit, which means a lot of people are rebooking into 2021 rather than losing their holiday altogether. And that's been quite beneficial for us. We're seeing rates of between about 60 and 65% rebooks at the moment, which we're quite happy with, and we're monitoring that and targeting that as much as we can. Some people are just not happy that they're not prepared to sort of see where it's going to be next year. But I think the fact that they are giving additional financial benefits to rebook has allowed us to re-protect more customers than we might have been able to beforehand.
Yeah, smart move by some of the cruise lines by making it 110, 120% or whatever as a real incentive, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Edwina, how about your business? I mean, from a personnel point of view, how many people do you have, and what have you been doing in the last few weeks? They're on furlough.
So we have 30 staff in all, and we started working from home about the middle of March. And then at the beginning of April, we furloughed about 60% of our staff. Difficult time for everybody. The people who are furloughed just desperately want to help their colleagues. The people who are not furloughed are madly busy. And in fact, we could easily have kept everybody on, but we're preparing for the future and for coming out of this. So we felt that the best action was to take the government support where it was offered in order to secure the future for us and our staff. And yeah, we're looking forward to coming back bigger and better.
It's going to be a while before any of that money comes through as well, isn't it? Yeah, it's a promise of some cash at some point in the future. Mary, what's the situation been in Ireland? Has the government had similar support measures in place in terms of covering employees' salaries and whatnot?
Yeah, I think the Irish government have actually acted really, really well, and we've been in lockdown now for nearly 3 weeks, but what they've done with businesses and what they've done with staff has been really good. So in the last 2 weeks, they have come out with a policy where they pay 70% of the staff. So they're trying to keep this relationship between the employee and the employer. And that is very, very helpful now at this time. So it's a bit different to the UK. And also then for any staff that had to be let go, for example, we've been able to keep half our staff. Some of them we couldn't use, like graphic designers or marketing department or some IT functions, and then some people couldn't work from home because they had young kids or they didn't have broadband. So they're giving all those staff €350 a week, which is very good. So that means that these people won't be out of pocket. So that's been very welcomed. I don't know how this is all going to be paid back though, but it's funny. I'm sitting here today. I should be on a cruise ship celebrating. I'll be 25 years in business in October. I was taking my two sisters and their families, and we should be on MSC cruise right now. I've been planning it for a year and a half. So I like all my colleagues here. I don't know how we feel anymore. Very surreal.
You mentioned the government is paying 70% of wages. Are those individuals
to cap?
Yeah. And are they allowed to continue working, or do they have to go into sort of the equivalent of furlough?
No, they continue working, which is really, really important. So as a business now, for example, you've got to look in the past. We're servicing, like Paul and Edwina, customers that we've already had these fixed costs for. We've already paid the salary cost for the bookings that we got in, the rent, the rates, all the fixed costs there. And now we're back servicing these customers. And we're even busier than before because we're changing, we're doing different things, so they're looking for full refunds with no income coming in. So we're taking a double loss on these bookings because we're not gaining any commission and we're losing. So it is important that the government helps SMEs because this is what's going to be needed to recover in both the UK and Ireland, are all these businesses to come back, and it is not going to be easy.
No. That's really interesting that in Ireland the individuals are allowed to keep on working, because Paul, that's different to here, isn't it? If you've put a member of staff into furlough, they're not then supposed to be working at all. How have you managed that with your team?
Yeah, it's incredibly hard in the UK. It doesn't really work for the travel industry, the furlough scheme. To be honest, like Edwina said, it has to be utilised to make sure that we come through this, to get the cost base down when the amounts of new income we're getting through are really low at the moment. And where we're different from other businesses, if you take someone like Costa Coffee, they've pretty much shut their doors and then that's them done. Until they reopen, their cost base is very limited. They haven't got to look after their customers. Whereas we have to continue to reservice all of these bookings, make all the amendments, make all the changes. But without utilising the government scheme, it would be incredibly hard to see a positive picture coming out the end of this with the cost base so high and no income. Not only is there no new income coming through, a lot of business that we're losing, cancelled bookings. At the moment, we're struggling with balance payments. So we've got a lot of customers which are cancelling rather than paying their balances for their summer holidays. Now, some operators have been very good in the last few weeks where they're reducing the amount of time. So a couple of cruise lines changed it to only 4 weeks as of last week, and that made a big help for us because at least we can sort of move that in. But yeah, as Edwina said, we're busier now than we've ever been, but we're working on our skeletal staff just to try and absorb some of the cash that the government have put in place to help companies get through this.
Mm. And that's one of the most difficult conversations at the moment, isn't it, with customers around this refund debacle, whether they should be asking you for a refund, whether or not you can convince them to postpone instead. I mean, it's putting the agent in a very difficult situation to try and explain the scenario and being fair and understanding the customer's rights, but trying to keep your business alive as well. I mean, how are your staff handling that sort of conversation, Paul? Is it proving a difficult one for them to broach?
I think the majority of customers understand how difficult the situation is at the moment, and they're sort of quite good around that. Also, we're getting quite good feedback around the fact that we're actually there. So we're communicating regularly with customers. I'm doing sort of weekly video updates that we're sharing on eBlast and on social media to try and give them updates from the industry on what's happening. And the fact that they can still ring through to our agents and we're answering the phone, we're answering questions. A lot of what we're hearing, if people have booked direct or if they've booked with big online companies, it isn't as easy to get through to people. And I do think it will reward those agents that perform well at the moment in still being able to offer a service, still being able to push things through. The difficult side of it is if we haven't physically got that customer's money. It's been passed on to an operator or to a cruise line. So to try and explain to a customer who rightly is saying the PTRs say that you can get a refund within 14 days. And we all know that that's not possible in most cases at the moment. And we're having to explain the situation, go through what ABTA have been sort of advising and going through their guidance, and trying to do that as best as we can. We're still getting some customers which are sort of going down the route of challenging chargebacks, going through the Section 75s and areas like that. And it's trying to explain, again, the legal situation that we're in with a business on how we're trying to handle the situation. And my personal belief is that refunds, rather than, the credit note situation is a big one at the moment. And I do believe refunds will be available at some point. But I think the industry as a whole has to get the tipping point where money starts coming back in before a huge majority of this goes back out again. And at that stage, then more refunds will be possible to send through.
Yeah. I mean, Edwina, a lot of your customers are high net worth individuals, or, that certainly got a little bit more money than most. Are you seeing anything interesting there in terms of their kind of propensity to postpone rather than needing that money back? Or are you got clients who are just as concerned wanting the...
No, that's quite interesting. That's quite interesting, because we know that in some sectors of the market, it has been, this need for refunds has been because people have gone from feeling very financially comfortable into severe financial difficulties, because obviously we're not the only industry that's being affected by this. Whereas in terms of our clients, yeah, they probably don't need the money back, but they want the security. So the credit note situation, whereby you can make a claim against the company should, God forbid, there be a failure at a later stage via their licenses, is quite important. So it's important for us to explain that to our customers. And a lot of them are quite happy either to rebook for next year, or to sit on the credit note and see what's going to happen later on in the year. It's just that question over when are we going to be able to travel again, and where are we going to be able to travel. So yeah.
A lot of uncertainty. And Mary, how is this panning out in Ireland? Obviously, it's different government, but still same EU package travel directive that's in play at the moment. What's going on in your market?
Well, it's very interesting listening to Edwina and Paul. It's the same thing. The customer, I think we all have to get in the shoes of the customer all the time. And, the law is very clear, but nobody can adhere to the law right now. There is no law in Ireland at the moment. And I'll give you an example of that. There are airlines flying to destinations because of cargo. So if a customer tomorrow is due to go to Boston, and Donald Trump has said you cannot get into the States, that airline is not refunding because they're saying they're flying. So there's a lot of laws being broken, and there's a lot of things that are not right that are happening at the moment. But at the end of the day, it's interesting, we talk about the voucher, and we talk about business and survival of business. And I think what Paul said there as well, and Edwina, I mean, if we all get through this, and hopefully we all do, I'm hoping that the consumer will remember all the companies that did the right thing. And when I think of a voucher, I always think of myself, if I bought a washing machine in the morning and I'm told you cannot have that washing machine now, you've paid us, we're going to give you a voucher and you can use it in a year's time. I don't see how this works. And I think what we will do is refund customers when we get the money back from the airlines, from the cruise companies, from the suppliers, from the hotels. And that's the fair thing to do. And I think a customer does understand that. And they know that all offices are closed. So, the normal things that went on in the past aren't going on at the moment. But at the end of the day, communication is the number one thing. And, social media has shown how important it is to be there to take calls, to answer questions, to help customers move their holidays. A lot of them are moving them. And some people really need the money because they've lost their jobs. Mm-hmm. So we have to have empathy and do the right thing. So I'm really hoping, this is a painful time. We're all losing money. There's no one who's making any money in travel. It's a loss, that we survive. And customers remember, actually, that company did the right thing. They had integrity. They didn't follow any bad habits. They did all the right things. And that you'll get a surge in, oh my God, I'm going to book with that company, because they really do put customers and their staff first. That's what I'm hoping.
And is your experience in Ireland, Mary, that you're not getting money back from any suppliers at the moment? You just...
You know, it's starting to happen, but like the cruise companies, and they're often, and look, cruises have got really badly hit, really bad. Like the perception that you could be stuck on a ship somewhere and not get into dock is horrific for customers. So that is going to take a long time to get over. And really, I don't see it coming back until 2021. I think it's the best holiday ever, but they have really taken a bashing. And so they're taking 6 weeks to 8 weeks to refund. Customers don't understand that because the law for the travel industry is 14 days. Now, there's no way anybody can do 14 days, and there's no one in Ireland doing anywhere near 3 months at the moment.
Right. That's interesting, talking about the kind of perception problem that cruise may or may not have at the moment. There's certainly been some articles in the consumer press around, you know, who would cruise after this? Quite alarmist.
I think they will. People will forget. Like, I started cruise holidays after September the 11th out of desperation. And, you know, when you think our industry has gone through a lot of different things, and I remember the year after, you know, being worried about the States, and all the Irish, the Irish flew in loads after that year. That was the highest number. So we will, but it needs to be safe. We need our customers to be safe. There's a lot of things that have to be dealt with. And at the moment, the cruise industry has got a really tough time. It is the most fantastic holiday. They're the most brilliant ships, but people are fearful. So once we get that right, 2021 should come back. These are great holidays, but I think this year is going to struggle.
Yeah. And Paul, do you think your client base have had their perception of cruise changed, or do you think they see through those sort of mainstream media articles that are kind of alarmist about cruise at the moment?
I think, as Mary says, it will be very much about how the cruise industry portrays this message once we get through this. In some ways, they could take some positive action around this, because as harsh as it's been over the last few weeks and months about this containment on a ship, that you're all in one place, and that if something comes out, then it can spread quite rifely. The same could be said in the reverse, that once we know who's had it and who hasn't had it, with the right coverage, the right technology that these ships have got in place now, it should be pretty easy to work out who's on there, whether they've had any sort of ailments or anything around this. And it could actually be seen as a safer place to go than some of the land destinations, when you don't know who the person is next to you and the person over the other side of you as well. I'm hopeful that we might see some of it come back at some point this year, but I do agree that the majority of bookings are going to be for 2021 now. And I think most operators are almost kind of conceding to that at the moment, that 2020 is going to be very hard to sell a cruise package on. I think customers, they will forget, and they will want to continue to travel. They do not want to lose their holidays. And I think that's one of the things that's come out of the current PTRs is apt to say quite a lot about that. It's their consumer right to get a refund within 14 days, but it's not in consumer interest to get that refund within 14 days, because it could wipe out the entire travel industry, which is not in anybody's interest. Everybody needs this to return once this is all over, and then people can return to do what most people actually choose as one of their key things that they want to do each year. So I genuinely think that cruise will come back. It just, as Mary says, I think it will be a longer term sort of gain on this.
Yeah, Edwina, a lot of your clients are very loyal, aren't they, to their small ship cruise line? That's quite specific to that end of the market. Do those sorts of scaremongering articles in the press worry you? Do you think they could have a negative effect for your clients, or are they so loyal and such avid cruisers that they're going to come back?
I think people fall into two completely different camps. I mean, there are certain people who are saying, no, that's it, never again. There are others who are saying, just get me a ship. I'm going to book on whatever I can get on as soon as it's available. So yeah, people feel very differently. But I think the plus for the small ship industry is that the high profile cases have not been on small ships. You're much more able to keep a distance in any case on a small ship. So big ships they do feel quite crowded sometimes, I suppose. So possibly that's an area of concern for people. But I think both Paul and Mary are absolutely right. After a little while, then that will sort of fall away. And as we know, the standards of cleanliness, the focus on the passenger on ships is just so much higher than on any other sector of the industry. That strong message needs to start coming out pretty soon. And the other thing I would say is I do think that the business will come back more quickly for small ships. River, I think, we may well have a bit of river business still in 2020. Expedition also is going to be, we've got the exciting new ships coming online, and I think that's all going to that the future looks rosy for those products, but it's not going to happen tomorrow.
A few agents have reported that they'd seen some quite big price increases for 2021. So they've been trying to rebook clients, but the cruise line, I think it was a couple of river cruise lines in particular, had put the prices up quite significantly for next year, which was understandably putting the client off accepting that for next year. Is that something you guys have experienced? You mentioned actually the cruise lines being very flexible and offering more in exchange for postponing. Have you seen a little bit of prices being higher though for 21?
I think the challenge for the cruise lines at the moment is to be flexible in terms of their revenue management. They simply don't know what's going to happen, and therefore it's a mystery to them as to where to place their pricing. They don't want to go into that same post 9/11 terrible deep discounting because it's not good for anybody, it's not good for the industry, it's not good for the future. And I think they will control capacity rather than go into that deep discount situation, because that's how it has to be. We all know that cruise is great value anyway, but what the cruise lines are not able to do at this stage is do that sort of gauge the market. Here's a one-off sailing that we need to give a little bit of a boost to, because they just are not able to look and do their revenue management in the way that they have been able to up to now. And I think the same will be it will be the same case for airlines and hotels as well.
Yeah. Mary and Paul, you obviously sell cruise alongside other products, a lot of America and other things for you, Mary, and huge variety of other products for you, Paul. Are you seeing any differences in terms of your cruise clients versus your non-cruise clients in terms of what they're doing, how they're responding, or is it kind of similar really?
Well, for us, it's very similar. So, I mean, we sell cruises worldwide. And cruises is very much a young market and a growing market in Ireland, and it was the real success story. And you'd find someone who might go to Orlando for a week and then go on a cruise, or they might do the Med in the summertime, a great family holiday. So I just think everybody's in shock. Nobody expected what happened in the last 5 or 6 weeks, and we all heard the stories in January with Princess and whatever, but nobody thought it would get like what it's at now. But people do, they miss their holidays, they want their holidays, they just want to be safe. And what's going to happen is, going back to the subject you just brought up before, there's going to be less airlines flying to destinations, so the prices will go up. The cruise companies, when they came out first, were offering vouchers to travel, and then there was restricted dates to the end of the year, trying to get demand. And then a lot of 21 was sold, a good bit was sold already, so you had about a quarter of that business already in. So they need to be very careful on what they do here, because we need to get the market back. And once this is all over, and it will be over, I see that bookings should be coming back in August, September, that we start advertising, do different things. We're not advertising now at all, because out of respect to what's happening, we just need to take care of our existing customers. But if the cruise companies and the airlines do the right thing, and again I say the right thing, about saying, okay, we need to get the business back, we need to be fair to customers, not increase the prices. And I get it, but we can't. We need to make sure that someone who's going to travel, because consumers are very savvy, they know if that cruise was you know, 999 and now it's 1,500. They're not stupid. So we need to be fair to them, get them back, get confidence back in the market. We all need to be there, survive it. You know, cash flow, getting all the business strategies right to make sure that we're there when this market comes back. And I don't know what the world is going to look like in the future. And that's the only thing I don't know, because this is not something that's hit a particular country. This is hit globally. It's going to take a long time to get through different things and self-isolation and all the rules that are going to go. So it'll be a new world. It might be a better world, but we need to prepare and get ourselves ready for it as well.
Paul, it was interesting that Mary said she's not proactively marketing cruise to her clients at the moment. What are you doing to keep in touch with customers, and are you proactively promoting anything?
We're still trying to keep in contact by emails, so we're doing probably 2 a week. One of those will be a video message from myself, just kind of trying to give an industry update, trying to talk about what we're doing as a team, trying to be honest with consumers, talk about the furlough scheme, who's off at the moment, how we're trying to run our business currently, trying to talk about refunds, asking for patience, understanding that sort of idea. We're adding a little bit of marketing message on there, because we are still seeing a little bit of 2021 business from, in particular, cruise, not too much land. And I do think for us, it's slightly easier to rebook and resell and even do new cruise than it is land packages at the moment. One, I don't think there's as much fluidity in the prices in ocean cruising in general. So if people are losing their cruise this year, because the product's already out for next year, it's easier to go. Whereas some of the more mainstream land products, it is a bit more fluid. So you are seeing sort of variations in the scale. And also for I suppose the non-cruise land holidays, long haul, it's quite hard at the moment because a lot of the flights aren't on sale for next year. So as much as customers might be like, well, yes, I would be happy to rebook, at the moment we can't give them definitive prices, and we can't actually get them what they might be looking to do. So it is a challenge. I think we're not doing any sort of marketing spend as such. We're going down some. Obviously, all of our stores are closed at the moment, but in the windows we had some posters and some banners made up before we went on to lockdown, which talked about what we're doing as a business, how the staff will be working from home, and trying to sort of give some updates. We've used a couple of the cruise lines thank you messages that they've put out there as well, and we've added those into the shops when we've gone in to check everything's okay. So very low-key marketing at the moment, as you say. I think it wouldn't be ethically right to promote too much, definitely not for summer 2020 at the moment, until we actually know what's going to happen with some assurances with what we might be doing as a country. But also, there's no point trying to sell America until we know what they're going to do, what Spain are going to do. We've got to get that kind of sort of assurances before we can start trying to sell too much, I believe.
Yeah. And how about Mundy Cruising? Edwina, are you promoting anything at the moment, or is your comms much more around kind of we're here for you and that kind of thing?
Actually, although we do a bit of we're here for you, what we're trying to do at the moment is engage and entertain. So put out a lot of stuff that enables our clients to respond, which they do in an extraordinary way. We've had higher open rates and response rates to our emails than we ever have, which has been great. So lots of stuff about virtual cruising, how you can go and have a look at places you want to do, how you can restructure your bucket list rather than specific book now, let's do this. So that's been great, actually. It's been quite fun for our marketing team also to be able to be quite creative. And then we've done quite a lot of fun stuff about, you know, our staff are working from home. Here are their pets, here's their new colleagues, here are their children or whatever. So just to make it very personal, because that is really the way that we go to market in general anyway. So yeah.
And any bookings coming in for like new bookings? 2021, 22?
A little bit new. I mean, rebooks okay, but just a little bit, and even new to cruise or new to Mundy, which we find quite extraordinary. But it's just a trickle. It's just a trickle compared to what we would expect to be doing at this time.
Yeah. Of course. And have bookings entirely dried up for you, Mary, in Ireland, or are you getting a few tentative bookings for next year?
We're getting a few bookings. I don't know how they're coming in, but interesting. We post every day on Facebook, and we have our phone lines, and we have our Zoom meetings with our management team every Friday. We kind of have a drink and talk about the week. But I was looking at all the comments from customers, right? So, I mean, I did a video before I left the office. I did a video actually about 4 or 5 weeks ago saying, I think this is a bit of a hype, and here's some of our staff on cruises, and here's someone in the States. And I actually really didn't even think what was going to happen, but we have done a really good job of communicating. And what the consumer says back, and if you look at our Facebook, there's one comment from a lady, I think, and she said, look, I'm looking at your posts, and it's great. You're interacting with the consumer the whole time. You're updating them, giving them information. You're there for them. I have no bookings with you, but if I was going to book, I'd book with you. See, the problem is you think about how many bookings are done through trade partners, as in travel agents, a tour operator, compared to how many are done online, right? And we're actually a very small percentage. But what we do, we're protecting consumers, first of all, financially, and we're now doing a customer service, a really good job. Most of us are doing a really, really good job of taking care of the consumer. But for the majority of people who've booked, there's no one to talk to. You look at their Facebook, or there's 1 or 2 being slammed at the moment. There's no contact whatsoever. They just left them. And, maybe there's an opportunity for clients to look and say, there is a value for booking with the travel company that actually give us good value in terms of the money. It's not more expensive. There's a service, there's a 24-hour service and there's someone we can speak to. And we've done a really good job of having consumers being able to talk to us and reassure them. And that's all they wanted. If you look at our Facebook page, it is incredible to see people are saying, thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, that's not across the board to all travel companies, because some people have just cut off for whatever reason. And I'm hoping, as I said to you at the beginning, I really do hope that a consumer looks at companies like that are here today and say, actually, they really did care, and I will book with them in the future, that they don't forget that. Because we need that. We need them to remember that we actually cared a lot about the consumer and did the right thing.
Yeah. And it's really hard at this stage to see exactly how and when recovery is going to come, although obviously we'll feel very positive that it is going to come. But Paul, how are you trying to plan for the next few months? So have you got different scenarios that you're planning for, or are you taking it week by week?
We're definitely taking it month by month. That's sort of for the furlough scheme. We've already sort of put on about 2/3 of our staff are on furlough leave for April. Over this week and next week, we'll be talking to those on and off about what we're going to do for May, and whether we need to put more people on, take people off, how we're going to do it as a business. We need to manage the cost aspect against the workload. It's not been easy, but again, I think that I've got a core team all working from home, which are basically working together. So they've got WhatsApp groups. We're doing the Zoom meetings every week. We're trying to have that connectivity, even though that we're not together. So as much as they used to be in a team of maybe 5 or 6, they're now down to by themselves, but actually they're not by themselves because they're all together. I think what Mary made about the point about the consumers getting customer service from this, I think that's something that's going to be vitally important when it comes out of this, because I know how many hours I spend going through all of the different terms and conditions of all of the different operators. For somebody who's booked direct or packaged up themselves or done whatever they've done at home, to understand how they're supposed to go through this must be incredibly challenging and quite a worrying and lonely time with everything else that's going on, if suddenly you're worried about financially how your business is going. So that's one of our main focus has been to talk about that to customers, talk about what it means. And as much as we might not be able to offer them a refund right now, this is what the situation looks like. Don't worry, this is the financial protection you have. And as you say, just being there for customers, I think that's one of the best things that we've had come back from the feedback we've had on social media and on emails, is huge amounts of thank yous for the staff. huge amounts of concern. Are the staff going to be okay? Are you as a business okay? We've done cash flows up until the end of July currently, just on self-sustainability, over based on what we expect, pretty much no business over that time. After that, we'll then look at what August, September, October has to offer based on what our country looks at, but also how the travel industry looks at. So we're taking it slow and steady, shall we say, but not panicking, but also trying to be as proactive as possible to make sure that we're doing all we can to protect our business and also our employees.
Yeah. Edwina, how about in your business? What sort of possible scenarios are you planning for?
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it, to really plan for anything because as we say, everything changes from week to week in a way that we never could have imagined. Like Mary, at the end of February, our bookings were still 25% ahead. So despite the fact that we were dealing with cancelled cruises in Asia, we were pretty bullish about the whole thing. And then when the market collapsed on the 25th of Feb and everything went to pot, that was extraordinary. But still, we never pictured it was going to be like this. And I was convinced that, you know, come May, June, it will all be fine again. But right from the start, we did cash flows all the way through to the end of the year, assuming no new business coming in. So that gave us a bit of a stretch and a comfort and a reassurance for our customers and for our staff and so forth. But yeah, it's challenging. It's challenging.
Would you need to look to any of the other government support schemes like the business interruption loan, or would you be okay for quite a while with the furlough support?
Yeah, some time, and of course the business interruption loan is a challenging thing for travel companies to take on, given the amount of cash you need in the business, the liquidity of the business, and so forth. So I can't see a huge take up there. The rate suspension has been very helpful, but above all, it's the furlough support that's made a big difference for us.
And Mary, how about you? It's hard to know what's going to happen, but have you got several more months before it's going to get really, really critical for you guys? Or, you know, are you near that edge?
It's not nice at the moment, let me be honest, but I run my business as a business, not a lifestyle. So I pursue, you know, kind of, when you look over the years, the ash cloud and September the 11th, and so many things have happened to travel companies. So you do kind of prepare, and you prepare for days. You don't prepare for what's happening right now, but you know, we do have plenty of experience, and it is about always in business, 25 years, it doesn't go like that. It goes up, down, up, down. So, you know, this is going to be a year long of pain, I think. So we have to prepare for the worst. So we're very lucky. We have retained profits, thanks be to God. We're in good shape. We have no loans. I want to get through it. I want to provide jobs for my staff who have been with me. A lot of them, some of them have been with me 25 years. I want to give great service. So I'm hoping, I think it's going to be challenging for all business, but I'm hoping that we do make it, and that all the experience and all the pain we've gone through in the past is something that prepares us for what we're going through right now. And people will go on holidays and they will come back, and it will be slow, but the best of the best, this will come and find those companies that are doing all the best practice. And there's a lot of different things that are going on that are not best practice. I mean, for example, airlines are not licensed and bonded. I mean, that's a fact, and that's why all the governments are so concerned. You know, these airlines, some of them have really good cash flows and will make it through, and some won't make it through. And the cruise companies are in good financial shape, so hopefully they make it. But the travel agents are the one part of the industry that are actually licensed and bonded. And maybe that message can get out there, you know, so we might get more business from it, hopefully. But it's going to be challenging times. There's nobody who's going to say this is not going to hurt. This is going to hurt big time.
But as you say, there are hopefully opportunities.
Well, look, there's a name I did actually in November, you know, but look, the way travel's going to change. Will we need retail shops? I don't know. Will we have to look at our business in a different way? I mean, home working, okay, it might not work for everyone, but look at what's happened. Look at the climate change that we were not listening to. Now we're not in our cars. Now we can work from home. You know, maybe there's a new way of doing business, and we have to look at that, and the opportunities will come because something different will come out of the way we're running our businesses. And we can take the best things like customer service and culture with our staff, and maybe be even better businesses, because the world is going to be different.
Yeah, and we've certainly all learned a hell of a lot in the meantime. And Paul, do you think your business will look very different in 6 months' time? Will there be lasting changes that you make as a result?
I'm not so sure at the moment. I think it's hard to say. I think, to be honest, we are still looking at opportunities as well. So there may be some gaps in the market that will come up that we'll actually be able to step into and go through that. So there's still some opportunities that we're sort of working through. We've been on the expansion trail retail wise for the last 6 or 7 years. Not huge expansion, but sort of double the amount of shops, sort of more than double the amount of turnover, everything like this. And it was something that we were still working towards to continue to grow. I hope that the retail travel industry isn't at an end. I still think there's a place for a high street shop, and I still think that people want to deal face to face. I do think this whole scenario's opened up. We use technology in our business quite a lot because of the shops all around the country. We use video conferencing for meetings pretty much every week. We have operator training every week on video conferencing. So this has been quite sort of the norm for us. The one thing I suppose it has taught me is I probably travelled more than I needed to. So I sometimes went to stores more often than I could do this kind of work more often than I needed to before. And I think we will see more of that. But I think our customers are missing us as people. That's one of the things that we've seen most on social media. We did it as part of our PR, was talking about we're still there for you, just we cannot offer you a cup of tea and coffee and our smiley faces at the moment. And that's kind of where I think it will get back to, is people will want to come in and see us again once we come out the other side. Yeah.
And Edwina, are you able to feel hopeful about the future, looking ahead?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, as Mary and Paul have said, we've been in business for a long time. We've seen a lot of ups and downs in the travel industry. We never expected a down quite like this, but you know, fair enough. We can overcome. So I think what we've seen is that in travel, you need to be quite nimble. You need to be able to change direction, change your business. And there is an advantage for having a business that's small enough to be able to change your direction quite quickly. So that's really a big opportunity for us. We are in a fortunate position. Yeah, we're very prudent in terms of our cash reserves, so that we're fortunate to be able to think, right, we're safe, we can move forward. And watch the market for the directions. I think the interesting thing is that really we're all equal in this. Everyone has come down to nothing, haven't they? And you feel a little bit like it's racing cars going around the track behind the safety car or whatever, waiting for that opportunity to leap forward. And there's nothing to say that the companies that happen to have got themselves into a position to be huge in the market before this are the ones that are going to be able to retrieve their business as quickly as maybe other more nimble companies. So I think there's everything to play for. I think it's quite an exciting time.
Great. Well, thank you so much, all of you, for being so honest and sharing what's been going on in your businesses in the last three or 4 weeks. It's been a real pleasure to catch up with you. And yeah, good luck over the coming weeks. And hopefully we'll be able to maintain some of that positivity and see some more bookings coming back in soon. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thanks.
Nice to speak to you all.
Bye.
Good luck, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.